was 10 years old when I first met my new neighbor, which eventually became my friend. His name is Juanito, and he has 4 more siblings. He is the youngest. We were the same age, and surprisingly, we get along so well together. Juanito and I became the best of friends. We played most of the games together, playing kites on the field, swimming in the river, playing hide and seek with other friends. Wherever we went, we always had fun and got each other's back. We do things together most of the time. After 3 years of being my best friend, his family decided to go back to their hometown. It was my first heartbreak. The last time we saw each other was the moment of bidding goodbye. Our lives go back to normal without each other's company. As the time passed by, I slowly let go of our memories together and I met new friends. One night, I had a very bad dream. I was sitting on our chair outside when I saw my best friend Juanito, covered with blood. He was reaching out towards me. Tito, I am very sad. And I'm so lonely on the other side. Come with me. Tito, come with me. He was coming slowly towards my direction, with his face almost full of blood and cuts on his head. I was so frightened. I shouted and suddenly I woke up with a sweat on my face and body. My brother, who is sleeping next to me, comforted me abruptly. My mother rushed into our room and gave me a glass of water. You are having a nightmare, my mother said. I told my mother about my dream and she said I must pray before going to bed. Now, go back to sleep. You are going to wake up your other siblings if you keep awake the whole night, my mother added. My brother and I went back to sleep again. When the morning came, I just shrugged it off of whatever dreamed I had last night. We had breakfast and after that, we went to the rice farm for planting. Before we reached the middle of the farm, we need to pass first the old house where Juanito and his family lived before, and up to this time it's still unoccupied. I do miss him, but at the same time I'm worried if he is doing good whenever he is, or when we were able to see each other again. Some of my friends and I gathered one afternoon beside the river while making bonfire and shared their haunted experience of the house since the family left. Just a couple of months since they left, some of my friends saw someone standing outside the house during the night, and they heard someone crying every time they passed by the old house during the night time. I wanted to tell them about my nightmares, but I didn't want to scare them more, so I kept it to myself. No one living in the house. Maybe that's the reason some unseen creatures occupied the place and caused it to be haunted. I do have some doubts about believing them because I didn't hear anything nor see anyone, and I don't wish to experience it. I rather don't mind it, and we just have to focus on the things we are doing. Enough of those guys. Let's go now. It's almost evening, I told them while wrapping my ripe mangoes and other fruits that we found in the forest. We keep going, and thanks God we don't see or hear anything when we pass the old unoccupied house. Everyone was in a deep sleep in the middle of the night when I woke up. I couldn't move my entire body. and my eyes were just half awake. I felt like there was lots of energy that was holding onto me. My mouth tried to open, and with all of my strength I called my mother's name, but there was no sound coming out of my mouth. Deep inside, I'm so terrified. When I'm trying to move my hands to reach my big brother, who is sleeping next to me, I saw a dark figure standing behind the door, facing at me. I panicked and tried my best to move, and then he slowly moved in my direction. I tried my best to shout as loud as I could, but it seemed like no one heard me. When the figure's continuously moving towards me, it gave me a clear vision of his figure. It's him again, my long-lost friend Juanito. Tiro, come with me, come with me. And this time his feet are not touching the floor, he is floating. The same with my first dream of him. His face was still covered with blood and cuts on his scalp. I was so terrified when his face was near my face and slowly going down. I closed my eyes and I did my best to utter some of the prayers that my parents taught us. I gasped with air when I'm fully awake because of my parents shaking me desperately. At that moment, I'm 15 years old already, but I'm almost crying while telling them about my dreams, or what they called sleep paralysis nowadays. My mother assured me in a worried voice that everything was not real. It's just a bad dream that will eventually gone when I keep praying before going to bed. But honestly, those two incidents gave me fear of sleeping at night. One afternoon, my father asked me to come with him to the forest to fetch some firewood. When we are in the forest, we gather firewood as much as we can before the sun sets. While fixing our firewood, my father said, "Oh, the sun's starting to set. We must go now to reach home before night." He keeps talking while looking up into the sky at the same time, tying our firewood. I never felt scared in my entire life, even at night until those nightmares I experienced. I developed anxiety and terror inside me. We kept going on until we reached the end of the forest, and from there, we could clearly see the farm already. In my thought, thanks God, we're about to reach home before night will come. But just right after my thought, my father broke the silence. "Tiro, I forgot my dagger. I need to go back. You must keep going, okay?" My father said. I wanted to protest. I wanted to tell him I need to go with him, but I don't have the courage to say so. I'm too shy to admit that I'm scared, because back of those times, men built to be strong and brave. Being a coward was never an option, especially at the age of 15. So I just said, "Okay, Papa." I uttered my prayers before I started walking forward, while my father went back to the forest. I'm in the middle of the farm already, and I can clearly see the old house of my best friend. I'm slowly approaching that area with all of my hair on the body standing. I felt cold and my entire body was shaking. I need to pass the old house before I reach home. Suddenly my body was shivering as I clearly saw someone standing beside the door of the old house. I was trying my best to focus on the road, but my peripheral view saw it clearly. I gathered all my strength to keep going on, but when I nearly passed the house, someone called my name, and that voice seemed so familiar. Tiro, Tiro. I don't know why, but my curiosity got on me. I tried my best not to look, but I turned to the side where the boy was standing near the door, and it was no other than Juanito, my long-lost friend. Tiro, Tiro, come with me. I'm 100%. I am not dreaming. I don't know what to feel, but I got goosebumps when I realized he didn't even age. He's still the 13-year-old boy I last met 2 years ago. I was stuck on my spot. I can't even move. I was trying to put things by pieces of what's going on. I was torn by the thought between the fear I felt and the feeling of wanting to run up to him and catch up on things. But when he is slowly coming towards my direction, without touching his feet on the ground, it makes me freak out. As he comes closer, his face is clearer now. It's full of blood, eyes almost sunken on its socket, with dead stares. I literally got numbed. I couldn't feel my feet. All the firewood had already dropped on the ground, and it's just a second. I collapsed. I slowly open my eyes when I feel someone shaking my shoulder and a tiny slap on my face, just enough to wake me up. It's my father. I see in his eyes the worries and questions. Tiro, what happened? Is everything okay? Do you feel any pain? What's going on? Asked my father. But I can't utter a single word. My father held me up and we continued moving as fast as we could towards home. I told my family about what happened, about what I saw. I'm trembling and covered with cold and sweat. My mother put me to bed and helped me change my shirts because it's full of mud and sweat. I can't help myself but cried in front of my parents. My mother comforted me, and she said, aside from us, there are other things that live along with us that cannot be seen by our naked eyes, and beyond the things that we could never imagine. We are not alone in this world. There are many things that cannot be explained. You don't have to show them that you're scared, because if you do, they will keep playing with you. Just don't forget to pray, okay? Mama said in a very calm voice. My father also said maybe it's just an element who copied my best friend's face, or what we called nowadays doppelganger. No matter what my parents told me, it doesn't ease the fear I had at that moment. It makes me more curious, and it creeps me out more. The next day I got a high fever. My mother stayed at home and took good care of me. We don't have hospitals and clinics in our village, so whenever we are sick, my parents will gather some herbal leaves from our backyards, where my mother made her garden and herbal plants since we were babies. My parents, ancestors, and even the neighborhood of the village are familiar with ghosts, elemental, and superstitious beliefs. Not just familiar, but also they believed in it. My siblings and I grew up knowing those things exist, but experiencing it by my own self is a different story. It affects my personality, my behavior, and my thoughts. From a very playful kid and a funny, I became so silent and preferred to stay at home most of the time. I did try to forget it and focus on my daily life because I don't have any choice but to move forward. After 5 days, I felt better. I go back on my old things, works on the farm, and do my house chores. Unlike before, I love going out in the forest with my friends to fetch some ripe fruits and swimming on the river. But since the haunted happened to me, I'd rather stayed at home. Despite what happened, I still do think of my best friend. I do pray that he is in a good place and happy. I'm still hoping that one day we will still be able to see each other again. One morning, I heard people talking outside of our house. When I went outside the room and sat behind the window, I saw two familiar faces. It's Juanito's parents. My heart beat fast. I felt something strange, mixed feelings. I had the urge to ask them where Juanito was and if he's doing good. But at the same time, I'm not ready or I don't want to hear any bad news about him. As I observed them while talking, they look so serious. It's not the typical reunion usually we have with people we haven't seen for a long time. After the talk, my mother invited them for breakfast, but they refused. I found out what they were talking about later during our breakfast. My mother shared to us the news. They will stay here again for good, at their previous house, but with their 4 kids only, my mother said without looking at us. She kept putting food on her plate and to our youngest sibling. "How's Juanito, Mama? Can I visit him right after our meal?" I asked my mother, and she released a deep breath before telling me the devastating news. "My child, Juanito is no more. Your friend died 2 years ago." I'm speechless. I can't even swallow my food properly. I drank water and asked my mother, "What? But how? Where, Mama?" I asked my mother. "Juanito fell down from the coconut tree and died on the spot. His head hit on the rock just after 2 months staying at their new place," Mama explained. My chest tightened. The sadness was all over my face. So all the nightmares, apparitions of Juanito's I saw was true? I'm seeing his ghost? I am not hallucinating or even elements who copied someone's faces. It's not. It's really my best friend's ghost. "But Mama, why he always told me to follow him? And I will never be able to see him again." "Don't be scared, Diddle," my mother said while holding my hand. "Maybe it's just his way of telling you he misses you and he never forgets you," Mama added. "Then what am I supposed to do? To let him know that I cared about him, that he needs to be okay and keep going on, or where he is supposed to go?" I asked. My mother and father told me to light a candle at Juanito's house near the door and offer his soul a prayer. I assured my parents I would do it right after our breakfast, and they promised me they would come along with me. Right after our meal, I went to Juanito's house along with my parents, and also I carried some of the candles. We gathered together with Juanito's parents to do the prayers, and I myself uttered some personal prayer for his soul. I know you wandered for so long just to find me, and now you found me. I'm so sorry for not welcoming you nicely, but I do care about you, and I will always carry our memories together. May your soul be at peace now, my friend. You don't have to worry anymore. Be at peace now and keep going to where you are supposed to be. Farewell, my friend. I said those words through my mind. Thanks God, after those prayers, I never encountered some visits from him any longer. So, I guess it's just his way of telling me he's gone already, and he does miss me. Even when he's gone, I will always be his best friend, and when the right time comes, we will meet each other again. That's the end of my story about my long-lost friend, Juanito.